with, or what kind of provisions do they make for the people they let go?
You know, they never give the details in newspapers, in either Japanese media or in English. For clients, I used to do some surveys on it, so I have a pretty good idea what they did. And I don't think they did much. I think probably the most they got was maybe a percentage premium on normal retirement plus maybe a few months' pay. I'd say at most we're talking about amortizing the total, well, anyway, the extra premium on the normal retirement benefit. We're probably talking about amortization of 6 months at the most, maybe less. So they would have gotten their normal retirement benefit, right? Like in the rules of employment, which is your kaishetsugo, which would be if a man was there, say 25 years, or a woman was there 25 years, they would get probably 30. Man, at that company, they probably get about 30 or 32 months of base salary, Kihon-kyu only, right? Without the allowances, obviously the bonus isn't included, plus maybe a total of another 6 months. That would be my guess as to what they got, but it is not quoted in the newspapers.
You made a very definite distinction in manufacturing investment in the Tokyo-Osaka line as opposed to the regional developing areas. Bringing that down into an employment area, the Japanese are trying very hard to continue the U-turn effect by getting the graduates from the Tokyo major universities back into the regions. What is very interesting to me is that in both of the movies, they showed, the head office in Tokyo, but the manufacturing outlets outside of Tokyo, exactly in opposite form to what you suggested. For example, Matsuda is, and all the major car manufacturers, et cetera, are out of that line. Would you like to comment on that and on the U-turn effect?
You know, where's Mount Mazda happened to be? It was down in Kyushu. Yeah. Well, you know, I guess it always has been, and Toyota's been in, obviously, in Nagoya. What we just did our survey on was a certain industry, and out of 53 companies, only 9 companies had a head office connected with a plant. Okay. In that industry. In other words, all your Japanese companies had their head offices. In fact, 32 of them had their head offices in Chuo-ku, Chiyoda-ku, and Minato-ku, with 7 more like in, you know, Shibuya and Shinjuku. Yeah, there are companies that have people down there, but it's primarily a blue-collar operation. Now, obviously, you know that Japanese production guys, you know, put on the blue collar when they're down there. But, you know, they call headhunters too, or they're very scoutable when they're told that they have to move down to a place like that, when they have any English at all, and when they've worked head office and when they've worked abroad. So I feel really strongly that it can be a mistake, especially for a multinational, because you have all the travel time to get out there of your expatriate managers coming in from the head office, let alone, you know, a lot of you, I don't think we couldn't be at this movie tonight if we lived out there. You know, you don't have the international schools, for example. So I think it's a lot for a multinational to take on. And I think, you know, you're not that kind of, you know, dorokusai, you know, down to the mud type Japanese company. I don't think you can pull it off easily. I think if you can shoot for Kanagawa, you know, Saitama, Chiba. Chiba's probably a good place to look at too. But we know from experience that so many of the names that you know, they lost so many people when they moved out to Tsukuba, for example. And you know, some people say that the cost would be less because you're hiring, you know, the more rural people. But to get the managers out there that you need, and inevitably they want someone who speaks English, even the factory manager, you've got to pay a premium to keep them out there. It's a little bit like going to Siberia.
These days, they're talking about what they call the Shin Junrui in Japan, this new generation of the young people. And it is said that an awful lot of them, they say, look, I'm willing to work for a company for 5 years, but that's enough. I want to go back to my roots. I want to go back to the countryside. And according to government surveys, approximately 60% of the young people are saying this. And so, my question to you, Tom, is that if this is the case, what impact does this have for the so-called lifetime employment, and especially for us as foreign manufacturers in this country who are already having an extremely difficult time recruiting top quality Japanese?
Yeah, I think AIDS is going to wipe them out, Brian. But no. Yeah, I guess we both lived here together now during the same period, but I heard about the U-turn, but it actually reversed itself, I thought. Has it U'd again? That'd be a circle. But I mean, I think that a lot of you are really top-notch people and sharp people, you know, the kind of guys that we're meeting all the time. I mean, I don't see that. We see a guy who wants to join a major investment bank in a hurry because they want to move him to the Osaka branch, you know, and the guy's even from Osaka. I mean, his family lives in Osaka. So I don't know. Maybe I've just been in kind of a distorted you know, picture here. But yeah, there are some things about the people not being as ambitious and not working as hard, okay, and not having quite that blind loyalty, trying to get around the closed labor market of the large firms. That I see. But if anything, I think that can help the foreign firms. I think that you may have a better shot now at competing against some of the top Japanese employers, and especially, you know, when you see your prime mainstream basic industries going down the drain, as you have seen very quickly now with shipbuilding, steel, and a little of the shine is off autos now. When Japanese see that, I think they're going to say to themselves that maybe lifetime employment with those firms, you know, isn't necessarily, you know, the ticket that the career escalator indicates. And I think that with higher cash compensation now in a foreign firm, maybe you can get some better people. That's kind of my reaction to it. But I don't think that many are going back. I mean, Tokyo's population is increasing faster than the others are, right? That's for sure. So the prefectures that are all the prefectures that are increasing in population are Tokyo, Chiba, Saitama, Kanagawa, and then your major Kansai prefectures. Those are the ones that are going up.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, I first came to Japan 14 years ago, sponsored by the Ministry of Labor here at Cornell University as a researcher, and worked in labor unions in a number of different companies, began translating, and then I started to do labor consulting as an individual. And then in 1978, actually on Halloween Day, October 31st, we incorporated and started a labor consulting.
What is the name of your company?
Techniques in Management Transfer, TMT.
Do you also get involved in other activities such as recruiting?
Yeah, recruiting has become also a big part of the business, especially in the last 5 years. In the beginning, with the labor consulting, we work primarily on setups when a company comes in Japan, setting up rules of employment and compensation packages, making sure that they take the right aspects of the Japanese compensation package, which lead to cost savings and so on. For example, implementing a bonus system, having non-pensionable allowances, watching out for the balance between the weight of pensionable income or the lump sum retirement benefit and the compensation package.
Your writings and your book, is that your book? Labor
Right,
Pains
yeah,
and the
Labor
Gaijin
Pains
Boss?
and the Gaijin Boss, yeah.
Which certainly seems to be very popular here in Japan. What does it actually tell the reader?
Okay, this represents basically 5 or 6 years of seminars that have been done under various sponsorships, as well as articles which have been published in different publications, both in Japan and abroad. And basically, it touches upon what the business actually does, setting up or changing rules of employment, working with the compensation area, handling the problem employee, basically getting rid of staff without having litigation, the designated poor performer. This is done in Japan. It's especially important to do it through a simple method of, for example, having a pay cut. There's no reason to throw a man out into the street. I feel that that's not really right, and it's much better to offer him another job or another possibility. And in the process, you could reduce his pay, say, by 20 or 30%, something like that. But that is a path of less resistance than terminating. It's very difficult to force, for example, a termination in Japan. We've been successful, I guess, with some 75 terminations of designated poor performers, with only so far 2 cases of litigation and cases where clients went ahead and didn't follow the advice and terminated. We also handle staff reductions, cost-saving programs, staff reductions. And actually we make sure that we do that such that a company does not lose its best performers. That's extremely important.
What are some of the common and costly mistakes that multinational firms make in the Japanese marketplace concerning recruiting, personal and labor management?
Okay, first of all, perhaps not realizing that they can get the best and the brightest Japanese out of top Japanese companies. That would be a mistake. Not having the right standard, having a standard which is too low. Also, in setting up compensation packages, perhaps they only understand the Western system where they divide annual income by 12, whereas it makes much more sense to have this discretionary bonus, which means that if you really have difficult times, you don't need to pay it. And furthermore, it's a way to, again, weed out a poor performer if you have to do it, and also to pay a man more rather than have it go off into taxes to be able to pay more. Other mistakes would be, for example, opening up the establishment of benefits to the Japanese staff and not understanding it yourself. You have to do your homework. You have to set up the rules of employment yourself. If you ask a Japanese manager to do it, essentially he's setting up his own benefits and he's writing his own contract. And it's not a fair position to put him in. So you have to come in with those rules and you have to say, these are the rules of our shop. This is our benefits package and we'd like you to run with this. But when you ask employees to put energy and time on it, then of course it's not fair to pull that away from them and to tell them that they haven't done the proper job with it. They will resent that.
Moving into executive search area, has there been some recent development in this field that you can touch upon?
Well, not really. I think it's always been said here that recruiting is extremely difficult, and perhaps executive search firms have been proponents of that myth as much as anyone else has. We believe at TNT we put money back into the business. We have a large number of recruiters, some 15 people. We have the 6th floor of a building ready for expansion again, and we believe that we have to keep in mind that balance between our client load, the number of clients that we have, and filling assignments. And if we have our own manpower to fill assignments, there's no reason why we can't scout. And in fact, we do have the confidence through our techniques to fill virtually any assignments. So I think that, yeah, the Japanese economy has slowed down now. More Japanese companies are cutting back staff. In that context, employees may be aware that joining a large Japanese company doesn't necessarily guarantee them employment for life. But on the other hand, maybe it's always been like that. Maybe one thing that's changed is there are more recruiters like ourselves who offer an option to the Japanese who up until now only faced the prospect of the closed labor market, where he couldn't in fact get an equally good job in another large Japanese employer. But now when he can get a job in a foreign company, it becomes attractive to him.
Are you optimistic about the possibilities and future of multinationals in Japan?
I'm basically optimistic about that. Nowadays, of course, it's a timely issue perhaps, but with the strong dollar, it is making the prices of products less coming in from abroad. It should be more possible to sell. More importantly, I think, as the overall importance of Japan increases, people send better and better expatriate managers here, and they'll spend more money here. And for example, to have a full investment in Japan and to buy land really is an incredible investment, isn't it? The way land prices in the Tokyo area went up 50% last year. Certainly it's extremely expensive. The entry ticket is expensive. But if you think that in 1 year your assets can go up by 50%, you almost don't need to sell product. Furthermore, you'll have hidden savings because the salaries of your employees can be less because they take comfort in knowing that, for example, a company has purchased land here. So,
do you think that multinationals are likely to find better quality Japanese personnel when they come in here than before?
yeah, frankly though, I mean, it doesn't happen by magic, right? Obviously, newspaper ads are always something that are good to try, but good people won't answer newspaper ads. I mean, I think that they have to know where to go, and they have to have good consultants helping them. And basically, if they go to the right headhunting company, there can be a significant difference in the role of just one man in an organization. One man is like a magnet. if he's charismatic and good from the right background, he can bring in many other people below him. He can make our job much easier. And in fact, our contract, I think, as you know, is set up for total flexibility so that we can build up a whole management team. And in a number of companies here, such as DuPont, I believe that will be mentioned in the seminar. We have in fact put 25 or 30 people in there. We generally have put anywhere from 4 to 10, 15 people into our clients. And we're willing to build up a company not only from the top management level. That's easy. Those people are identifiable. Anybody can get to them. Where we're good is in terms of staffing all the way through an organization, mid-managers and even sales engineers. We will do that. We'll do it if we get the top assignments. Of course, we won't do the lower levels unless we also know that we're getting the top assignments.
There was some rumor some time ago which indicated that there was some prejudice against Japanese, senior, good Japanese joining multinational companies. Do you think this is no longer true?
I never really believed that. Certainly, yeah, they're sensitive to certain problems in foreign companies, but I don't think it's a question of being really a foreign company as much as it is the size and the stability of the operation, as well as the social name value or the recognition factor. This is extremely significant. In other words, you know, foreign companies can at least pay the retirement benefit. They can have rugs on the floor. They can have nice furniture. They have an international global position. But a small Japanese company obviously doesn't even have that going for it, and it would be probably even more difficult for a small Japanese company to take a key man out of a major Japanese employer. And
Do you think it's a good idea for a senior Japanese who may have some English language skills to seriously consider joining a multinational company? Would that really help his career path and remuneration?
I think it depends. It could definitely do those things. It presumably will do it initially. He won't join the company unless he's got a big pay increase. I think we can say that most of the results, they're happy results. Most of the people are happy. But I was asked recently by a Japanese journalist coming in for an interview of the search activities here, and he asked me, do I basically recommend changing jobs? And of course not. I don't recommend that anybody change a job. It's much more than that, isn't it? It's a question of what are you facing in your next job, right? Will you be happy? Is it good? And what are you facing with your current employer? But if we look at the basics, I will recommend the candidates, hey, there's no reason for you to do it. Stay where you are. You're happy.
So, Herb, how's it going over at DuPont? I guess it's been, 3 or 4 years since we really started to work hard with you when Pete Buttenoff, primarily you'd been mostly in joint ventures and you had the resale operation, and then you started a corporation here, a Japanese KK, and for the first time you put Japanese on the board. And
that's true. We formed, Tom, a separate single corporate entity. We had been 2 separate corporate entities in Japan. We had, as you know, at that time, 6 joint ventures. We now have 8 joint ventures, and very successful ones, I might add. But we've increased since the incorporation into DuPont Japan Limited, where we represent 1 single corporate presence. We have our business increased very well. We're doing quite well in Japan. We're very pleased with our business results. We're pleased with the performance of our people, and we think we have developed now to a point where we're 950 employees approximately for our wholly owned portion of our business, and we feel quite good about it.
It's not so much the differences at times, but the similarities. I would say that the skills required to manage a major business in North America or Europe are the same that are required here. I mean, there's a certain attention to detail, a certain leadership quality which is required. The differences come, I think, mainly in the cultural aspects of the job and the requirements of the organization. I think here you have to be, one, particularly flexible in understanding the needs of the Japanese and the Japanese organization. You have to be able to deal within the rules of the environment Now, that is also the case of any other place, but the rules tend to be more the same in the West, whereas here they tend to be different.